Hello to everyone, and welcome back to the Multifamily Mastery Podcast. This is the podcast where I take you on a journey into multifamily investing as a complete beginner and hopefully end up somewhere someday. I'm your host, Jonathan Zook, and once again, welcome. So today I have here with me on my podcast, Andy Mcfarland. If you're in the single family space, you very well might know who he is. He's very big over there. So if I could have you introduce yourself.
My name is Andy Mcfarland. Thank you very much for that introduction. Um, yeah, man, you just want me to tell who I am and what I do and what I've been around doing?
Yeah, yeah.
So I guess I've been in single family space for a long time. I've been doing real estate for 20 years now. Um, and I didn't start out doing stuff well, I tell you where I'm at right now. Right now, I own a lot of rental properties. I own pieces of multifamily deals. I do private money lending. I've got self-directed IRAs. I own a digital marketing company. I own part of a real estate education company. And my main business buys and sells houses. We do 100 plus properties per year. We've done that for over 10 years now. So I've been around it for a long time. I've got a team of amazing people who help me do that. If that sounds complicated, I never would have thought that this is where I've been. If you talked to me 20 years ago, uh, I never would have thought that I would be saying what I just told you today. But so it didn't start out this way.
Yeah. What did you very first start in real estate? Like how'd you kind of get into it?
I got into it when I was like 21, 22 years old. My story was I used to play basketball at a church on like Wednesday nights. So I was there Wednesday night playing basketball. And some guy that I'd never met before showed up, and he was just like, "Hey, do you like to read?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I like to read." And he said, "There's this book called Rich Dad Poor Dad." And I thought it was a weird title. And I'm like, "Okay, whatever." So I took his advice. I read it. I have never seen that guy before, and I've never seen that guy since, but he was the one that told me to read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I read it. It changed my mindset like it's done for many people. Talking about assets and liabilities and things. And I'd never heard of those type of things before, passive income. My parents are both working professionals, never heard that. But that's what started me on the journey. If you've read Rich Dad Poor Dad, they talk about real estate and that as a way to get passive income. So I thought, I'm going to do real estate. So I started digging in, and I found a property. I mean, I'd been digging, I looked for a few different properties, but I ended up finding a property that was a piece of junk, a garbage house in a garbage part of town. It was a garbage house. It was an illegal, non-conforming triplex. Many of you guys probably don't know what that means, but bank owned. It was not a legal triplex, and it was non-conforming to zoning, and it had like 65 different code violations on it. And I had no business owning that property. It was my first property ever, but just by sheer bound determination, and nobody could tell me no. I'm like, I can do this. My parents thought I was crazy, um, but they supported me, and I went in there and I bought that house, triplex, bought it, cleared all the zoning violations, the code enforcement violations. I bought it, fixed it, rented it out, sold it on owner financing, and that was the beginning. And that house, by the way, a lot of times real estate investors will name their houses like the name of the street it's on, or the name of the seller, or whatever, some defining characteristic. This one I called my tree house because most kids get their education of like how to like build things and be kind of handy by starting by just doing a treehouse, right? Like that's our first building experience. So for me, I never had that building experience. My dad wasn't super handy that way. I've never been around any sort of hammers, nails, power tools, anything like that. So the treehouse was my first experience doing any of that. And the reason I had to do any and all of that was because I had no money. So I had to do everything. I was begging from friends to get favors to come do stuff for work. I convinced a contractor to do the work for half down and half at the end. I mean, I was just pulling in favors from anyone I could. I was pulling long nights and weekends and just doing anything and everything I could. But that was my treehouse, and I got my start and a major part of my education doing that. And now my company is called Treehouse Investments. My house buying company is called Treehouse Investments. So anybody who wonders why it's called Treehouse Investments, there it is. Because I started with the
Nice.
treehouse. Yeah.
Nice. What would you say was the number one lesson that you took from undertaking that property?
Man, I didn't know what I didn't know. And if I knew what I knew now, like right now, if I saw a new person going to take on that deal, I tell them not to do it because it was too hard. It was a really, really hard deal. I had no business buying that. It was a really hard deal to do. But I went into that with just I didn't know any better. So no one told me I couldn't do it. So I just did it. And every step of the way, I didn't know the end from the beginning. All I knew was the next step in front of me is this, and I did that. And then the next obstacle came, and I did that. And the next obstacle came, and I did that. I didn't know that was one of the hardest deals I've probably done to date. but I didn't know it was that hard of a deal. I just thought everybody did that. This is the normal deal. This is what everybody does, right? Most investors would overlook that deal because they'd be like, man, this thing is way too hard. I'm not going to put that much energy into it. But I just didn't know any better. But in hindsight, it's the best thing that ever could have happened to me because it's going through those hard and difficult things we have in life, especially projects like that, that teach you the most. I had to go through so much adversity, and it built me. It taught me, kind of cut my teeth a little bit in real estate. And if you listen to what I said earlier about how I did it, as bank-owned property that I bought, how I financed it was hard. It was really hard to do. So I had to learn a lot from that. Fixing it up was really hard to do. So I had to learn a lot from that. Renting it out is hard to do. Property management's hard. I had to figure that out. And then selling it, I sold it on owner financing, which is, so you got to learn some stuff to do that. So every step of the way, that being a difficult deal and complicated, I had to learn all of these different steps. So it forced me to not just have book knowledge, which I had some of that, I'd read books and stuff, but I had to take real world action. And that real world action gave me the 90% of the education. Whereas the books I read, that's like the 10%, right? But taking action on it really got me that real world knowledge. That's my treehouse.
Nice. So you would say that if someone is, say, stuck in like a learning cycle, thinking that they need to learn so much before they jump in anything, you would say that it would probably be better to jump in and then learn as you go, because then you're just
Oh my
forced to learn
gosh,
it.
1000%. My friend Mike Simmons, I think this is his quote. I'm going to attribute it to him. He has this quote that says, "You can't steer a parked car." There's so many people, especially
True.
younger people, that are like looking for, they see people on social media, they see that they have success, and they're like, I want that. And they think they need to jump to exactly what that person's doing. But they're not recognizing they haven't seen all the steps that led up to building that person into who they are. All they see is that overnight success. Of this is who they are. Oh, they're successful because they did whatever, right? And I'm not going to name all the things that people do, right? Because I don't want to encourage people to think like, oh, Andy said that, I should go do that. No, but do something. And don't think that that's something you're like, oh, that's beneath me, or I can't do that. Like, just do anything. Just like get moving in a direction, and you'll learn from that direction. Like, maybe it's a direction you don't want to go, but that's okay. You'll learn from that, right? So you might get into something, and 3-4 weeks later, you're like, man, this is not for me, but I learned something that's not for me. And then you move in a direction that's better for you. So adapt and overcome, right? As you keep going. Can't steer a parked car.
So people probably look up to you and are wondering and wanting to do what you do now exactly when you've been doing real estate for 20 years. So what kind of volume are you doing now since you've done that one triplex 20 years ago? What do you have going on now?
Yeah, and this might be good. This might be this instructive for people. So I've been doing it for 20 years now, and I'm probably a slow learner because for the last 10, 11 years, I've had a team of people and we do hundreds of properties per year. But when I first started out, my first year, I did like the one house. And then like the year two, I probably had a house or two. And then I started doing this thing called wholesaling that nobody knew what wholesaling was. I didn't even call it wholesaling at the time. It was just an accident. I can tell you how I accidentally fell into wholesaling, but I just did a deal, and then I did another deal, and I did another deal. And it probably took me my first 10 years, I was doing, I got to doing maybe like 15 or 20 deals like in a big year. But it wasn't until I started building a team around me and outsourcing or replacing myself and found great relationships with people who were helping me, who are better at it, frankly, the different pieces than I am, that I really was able to grow and scale and do 100+ houses a year now consistently. I mean, our biggest year we did over almost 300 houses, like which I think it's pretty big, right? But it took me less effort to do those 300 houses than it took me the year I did 15 kind of on my own, right? So it seems complicated and like mind blowing, but really when you have a team of experts around you and people, like it's easier to do those bigger things. But I didn't start there. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. So a very common saying in my generation and with younger people is just that they're going to do it themselves because they can't rely on anyone else. I take it you'd probably disagree with that.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that really a common?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess you can try to do stuff on your own, but I've learned, I've had so many people along the way that have been mentors to me that I've learned from, and you can do things on your own. But I would say, one, you're not going to enjoy that because we all have natural gifts and abilities, right? So if you work within your gifts and abilities, you're going to enjoy what you're doing. You're going to do it well, and it's going to be it's just going to be overall a better experience for you. And then those things that you're not that good at, if you find people around you who that is their strength and ability, and they enjoy doing those things, they'll do it better, right? And the results just going to be better. So I would say if you want to do everything yourself, why are you going to force yourself to do things you're not good at, that you don't like doing, and frankly you're going to quit? versus like having people who have different strengths and abilities and like bringing them in and let them do those things that they love to do. Like, yeah, I would disagree with that saying. And I don't know why. Maybe it's just ego. People think I can do things on my own, but I don't agree with that quote.
Yeah. All right. We were talking before this, and you said that your expertise would probably be relationships and people and putting them in the right places. Explain a little more about that.
Yeah, and as you said that as I look back at the 20 some odd years that I've done this, I think what's been the most successful thing that I've done, and I have done all the different pieces of the puzzle of real estate, but as I look back and think of what's been the most influential thing in my success, it's been that I've been able to find good people, surround myself with good people who are more skilled at things than me, and be able to work with them. I love this Zig Ziglar quote, and I'm going to paraphrase it a little bit, but he says, if you help enough other people get what they want, you'll get what you want. If you help enough other people get what they want, you'll get what you want. So I feel like I think everyone should think this way, but maybe everyone doesn't. But I think I try to go look at things from the standpoint of what is this person trying to do and how can I help them get that? And if I can help them get what they're trying to do, then I'm going to get what I'm trying to do, right? But I'm seeking first to serve them and have a positive impact on their life. And that in turn has a positive impact on my life and business as well.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
For real.
There's I've used this example before, but I'll use it again here. You like to play games, strategy games?
Yeah.
There's a game called Settlers of Catan. Have you ever played Settlers of Catan?
I have.
Okay. And maybe hopefully people have played this before, but Settlers of Catan is a strategy game. I like playing different strategy games, but in Settlers of Catan, my main strategy, and I've told my people like, if I end up winning a few times in a row, people are like, what are you doing? Like, what's different than how you're approaching this game than other people? In Settlers of Catan, you have to trade with other people. You get certain resources and they get certain resources, and you have to trade your resources for their resources. So you have to work with other people, right? Well, here's my main key with that when I'm working with other people. And I think I just kind of organically thought of this naturally. If I've got some cards and I'm ready to trade with your cards, Jonathan, I know what I need, right? But I don't know what you need. So most people's approach is going to be the selfish approach of saying, John, I need this. I need this. John, I need this. I need that. Right? But the correct approach, in my opinion, is saying, hey, John, going around the room, what people I'm playing with, hey, John, what do you need? What are you looking for? And you're looking at your cards like, oh, I need wood or I need brick. Okay. Hey, how about you? The next player, what do you need? What do you need? I go around the room, I find out what they need. Why am I doing that? Because I'm trying to find what they need, so that if they need what I need, then I'm probably not gonna be able to do business. But if they need something that I have, then I can be like, okay, John, sounds like you need wood. Or if I gave you wood, would you be willing to give me it? What do you have to give me, right? Does this make sense? Like, I'm going from the standpoint of your needs first versus mine, but this is contrary to most people in the world. Most people walk around the world selfishly saying, I need this, I need that. Who can give me that? Who can give that? Who can give me money? Who can give me a deal? Who can give me advice? Who can give me this and that? Flip it around, flip the script and say, how can I give something to you? How can I help you? How can I serve you? If you have that mentality, if you employ that principle in your life of giving first and how can I help you? Like Zig Ziglar says, help enough other people get what they want and you'll get what you want in every aspect of life. I believe that.
Yeah, that's huge. If the listeners take anything from this podcast, take that. That is absolutely massive. It's so important. Yeah. I had a question.
Yeah.
And it's coming back. I know it's coming back.
It's okay if you forget it.
Yeah.
It's all right. No,
yeah.
I was going to tell you, if people are just generally looking for success principles, right? Because I've read the different books and I've tried the different things, but the most successful thing from a daily perspective I've implemented in my life is people ask us sometimes, right? So I'm curious how you run your day too, but I try to start every day with intention. The whole day I try to have intention with it, right? But I wake up, put something good into my mind, so I'll read. I read the scriptures in the morning, so I think those are time-tested, good principles, and I want to start my life, my day with those type of things. So I start with scripture. Some people do meditation. I do scripture reading and prayer. Then I do a workout. Then after my workout, I just eat a meal. And then when I start my work day, I already know what goals and things I need to tackle for that day because I've got my ABC list. And people do it different ways, but the ABC list, like, these are the things that have to get done. These are the appointments that I've scheduled for the day. The B list is stuff I probably should get done. And the C list is stuff like get a haircut, which if it doesn't happen that day, that's totally fine, right? So I try to start from a list of priorities. Those priorities have been built from the week and the months before that because I know what my goals are. And they've certainly been built from the day before. So the night before, so and when I'm ending my workday, whenever that is, I'll write down a list for the next day. So I tackle my next day with my list, if that makes sense. So,
Yeah.
but that list is built from priorities that I've built from goals, what I'm trying to do. Because if you don't know, like someone said, Zig Ziglar's quote again, he says something, you can either be a meaningful specific or a wandering generality, right? And then the Cheshire Cat, I mean, I don't know what people into Alice in Wonderland, but he said something like, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. So you might get some people that are like, hey, I mean, what do you think I should do? What are my goals should be? And I'm like, I don't know. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish in your life? So you have to figure out like, what's your what road are you trying to go down? Well, what are you trying to do, right? What are you trying to accomplish? And if you know what you're trying to accomplish, you can find people who have been there before, who have done something that you can model your, if one man has done it, another person can do it as well, right? So, but that's important versus like, you got to know what that you're trying to do something so you can start moving in a direction. But that happens for me every day as I look at my task list for the day, right? I know where I'm trying to go.
Yeah. I'd say that's that's a huge problem with people my age, is that they don't have a goal. They're just like, because in culture, like you see all these young people that are like super successful. A lot of times you don't see the hard work. A lot of times you don't see how luck portrayed into it. And you're just like, I want that. But then the work has to come in. Definitely some aspect of luck has to come in. And you need to have goals. You can't just say, I want to be successful. Yeah, you want to be successful, but how do you want to be successful? In what aspects of life do you want to be successful? And then give yourself a road, like a path to get there. So
Yeah. And if people don't know, if you don't know where you're trying to go, that's okay. But you can have some general outlines of knowing. You can see people who have lives that you like, that you admire, maybe from a financial sense, maybe from a physical sense. But I would say you should look at things like the spiritual sense too, and relationships, and not just lifestyle. Because I think people overemphasize the lifestyle and the stuff of the world, where they live, and the vacations, and the cars, and the houses, and that stuff. But really, if you really look at it, um, from a maybe it's just because I'm older now, longer term perspective, I look at the most important things are my relationships in life, how I treat people, how I make people feel, who am I becoming as a human being? How's my integrity? Am I doing what I say I'm going to do? Am I helping people, right? Those type of things produce happiness versus the temporal stuff like the watches and cars and money and vacations. It's a trap. And if you talk to anybody who's had that before, who's being honest with you, it doesn't produce happiness. So be aware of those things. And when you're setting those goals and you're looking at people and thinking, what do I want to be? If you're looking for a roadmap in life, look to those people that you respect from that standpoint. A lot of times it's the things you see on social media. And I'm not big on social media. I'm not active on social media, but a lot of the things you see on social media, you guys all know this, but we still all believe it's true. It's fake. It's not real. It's not the real life. I've known people who are social media influencers, and I've seen them behind the stage and I've seen them on front of the stage. And it's not always true. Like what you see is not always true. So just recognize that. Find those people who have the life that are really living the life that you admire, every aspect of it, not just the financial sense. That stuff's fleeting. And say, okay, I want to get that. How do I get that? And then take advice from those people who have what you really want to have.
yeah. How big of a role do you think mentors have in being successful?
Mentors have a huge role in being successful, but I would look at mentors not like the typical mentorship thing. There's paid mentorships and there's big, social media influencers and things like that you kind of say are mentors. But I would say there's many people around you who can be mentors who they wouldn't call themselves a mentor. And if you came to them and say, hey, will you be my mentor? They might be uncomfortable with that because that's not what they do, right? They're just good people doing stuff who've gone about their life and they've just got this experience of life and that you want to have, right? Huge role though. That's one of the biggest pieces of advice I'd give to people who are younger, people are starting out, besides doing something, moving in a direction, having some idea of the direction they want to go. But you are who you surround yourself with, right? There's this quote that you either change your environment or your environment changes you. So you will become like the people that you hang out with, your friends, like it or not. Like look at that's the law of five. People will say like you will become the average of the five people you hang out with the most. It is 100% true. So if you look at your four friends around you, your five friends around you, and you don't like their life and their direction and what they're doing and the choices they're making, I promise you, if you hang around with them, you will continue to make those choices, right? So it's who you hang around with. It's what you allow to influence you from like a media standpoint, either actively, you can either be actively like pursuing the stuff that you want to, or you can be passively allowing things to influence you, which you don't want to be a passive person that allows things to influence you. And what you're listening to from or reading from like podcasts or reading books, like actively look for those things that are going to make you what you want to be, because those are mentors as well, right? So change your environment, or your environment's going to change you. Find those people. I mean, I wish I did. I've had tons of mentors over the years, but if I could go back and change anything, I would just go put more people in my life who are doing bigger and better things and being bigger and better people in all categories of life than I was and where I wanted to be. Like, that's huge.
Yeah. All right. Before the last question, is there anything else just in general that you want to put out there?
Be careful what you allow to influence you. I'd say that. Be careful, because not all the things that we see, especially in this information age, digital world, not all the things that you see are true. Be careful what you allow to influence you. Actively look for those things that are going to be an influence on you and what you want to have in your life. Don't passively just let things influence you. Don't believe all that stuff you hear. Find those people, or probably the older people in your life that have been through the lumps, right? They've seen it, and learn from those older people who have that success, those relationships, and they're just good people, right? Those people that you're around them and you're like, man, they just lift me up. They make me want to be a better person. They're just good people, right? Find those people, hold on to those people in your life. You want them around you, and then you'll become that type of person too, right? And you will be successful, even if you're not a bazillionaire, which I would say bazillionaires is not necessarily success. That's not the measure of success.
Sure. Yeah, that's great. All right. Last question. If
Yeah.
you could give any piece of advice to people of my generation and younger people, what would it be?
Oh man, I would reiterate some of the things that we've already said here today. Take action. You can't steer a parked car. If you don't know which direction you should be going in, just go in a direction, and you can always, not your forever and always. There's no job that's beneath you. You can just move forward and go in that job. Start anywhere you need to, and you'll learn from that, right? You'll always get paid what you're worth eventually. You think, well, I'm worth more than that. I'm not going to go do that thing. Eventually, you'll get paid what you're worth. You're not going to go into a situation and you're saying I'm underpaid. Well, you're always going to get elevated. You're always going to learn something to elevate to the level that you're worth, right? So you're never beneath. No job is beneath you. Always seek to serve. Be outwardly focused and trying to help other people get what they want. That's part of like getting paid what you're worth. If you do that, you will always be progressing your life. You'll be happy. People will be happy to have you around, and you'll grow and learn and progress. And you'll get anything you want in life by just helping other people. So serving is a big thing. And have those goals. Have goals so you're not a wandering generality, but you're a meaningful specific, right? So, and as you have those goals, you're going to start thinking about those things. And Ralph Waldo Emerson says, you sow a thought and you reap an action. So an act and you reap a habit. So a habit and you reap a character. So a character and you reap a destiny. It starts with the thoughts, but you need to know, I've got a direction I want to go. I'm going to start thinking those things and putting those things into my life, and then you'll eventually get what you want. So there's a lot of advice there, but if you do that, you will be successful, regardless of what your bank account says.
This whole episode has me like mind boggled over here. I'm just trying to process everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't have to know the end from the beginning. I didn't know when I bought the tree house. I didn't know what the end was look like. All you need to know is just like that next step in front of you. Just keep moving forward. Keep applying those good principles in your life, taking action, moving forward, surrounding yourself with good people, serving other people, filling your mind with the good thoughts, actively, proactively, not reactively being influenced by things. And if you do that, you will be a success, I promise you. And you'll shock yourself. 20 years from now, you'll be sitting there going like, I had no idea 20 years ago I could be sitting right here, but you will be successful. That's the best advice I got for you.
Yeah. All right. Well, I really appreciate it. I think that's about all we got today. But yeah, I really appreciate you being on here a lot. It means a lot. So
can I say something else before that?
Yeah.
John,
yeah.
I really appreciate you taking action and figuring this out, even though you're thoroughly thinking, I don't know what I'm going with this podcast, but you're taking the action, you're taking the little steps, you're not sure what's going to lead. You're adding value to the world. You're trying to lift people and serve people that way. You're embodying those principles. Keep doing that. Keep doing that. It will lead you where you want to go. And I want to acknowledge you and applaud you for doing this and providing value to the world. So thank you for your efforts to do this.
Thank you. That means a lot.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, I think that's about it. I will see you guys on the next episode.